The views expressed on the following broadcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. The dialogue on this show should not be considered as medical, psychiatric, or professional advice and is delivered only as personal opinions from the host, co-host, and guest. KHLT Recovery Broadcasting is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
If you are willing to go to any length, your higher power can be your source of strength. If you are willing, then action is the key. Give me the vision to make the decision to open the door and set me free.
And now, here's your host, Eve D. and the Monty'man.
And greetings, our recovery family, and all those of you who are advocates and perhaps people who should be in recovery. Welcome to another fine episode here at Take12Radio.com of Open Forum. And our special guest this week is Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Monty.
It is good to have you with us.
It's good to be here.
Thank you for being here. And by the way, that was the voice of Kathy Moser. She is an incredible recovery recording artist. She's going to be here this Friday sharing what she does. She writes songs in collaboration with other women in recovery, and then they produce CDs and albums, and she uses it also as a form of therapy, and she does this with young people as well. And so it's going to be exciting. Our YouTube version of that show is going to have a lot of pictures of her and her music and stuff during the show. So be looking forward to that. Kathy Moser is amazing. All right. Well, hey, listen, this week, this topic was inspired by something I had the privilege and honor to do. I was asked kind of at the last minute to speak at a 12-step recovery meeting, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. We read this thing in many of our 12-step meetings, because any meetings that are worth their weight really go by at least some of the material that is in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the things that is read very often is in chapter 5 of How It Works. It says, "Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path." The original manuscript said thoroughly followed directions.
It also said never.
Yeah, it said never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed directions. And I thought, you know, what is it about following directions that we have such a problem with? And this became the topic of my share, and I tried to, as much as I possibly could without slipping up, apply it to myself. And some of the people that know me real well, they knew what I was doing. You know, they're going, "You sneaky guy," you know. But as I was sharing, I was realizing, I really do have a difficult time following directions. So we're going to talk about this week, what does it mean to thoroughly follow our path, or thoroughly follow, the directions? What does that really mean? Do we count the cost with people? And so we're going to be getting into that here in just a few minutes. Let's get our PSAs or whatever we got to do out of the way so we can come back. And Cecil is just dying to get out of the box today. So we'll be right back, and we'll attack this trivia thing with Cecil and our special guest Lisa when we return.
If you are willing to go to any length.
I had this illness that really made me powerless over alcohol, and that insisted that I got drunk. And so I got drunk. It doesn't have anything to do with trying to control it. An alcoholic who picks up the first drink will pick up the second drink. I can't say to anyone, no, don't drink. But I can say that when you decide you don't want to drink, come to AA. The door to AA is always open. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Hey, this is the Monty'man at Take 12 Recovery Radio. For way too long, the faith community and church leadership has had a misunderstanding of what addiction and recovery is really all about. Well, it's time we clear up some issues. Recovery Life presents Understanding Addiction and Recovery, an informational workshop focused on educating the faith community, clergy, lay people, and church leadership on the problem and solution of alcoholism and addiction. Friday nights, 7 to 9 p.m., beginning May 2nd and every Friday in May at Oak Creek Christian Center, 5775 Columbus Street Southeast, Albany, Oregon. Gender-specific recovery life groups and support meetings for friends and families will form during the workshops. For more information, visit recoverylife.org. Recovery Life, a community outreach for the Willamette Valley in cooperation with Oak Creek Christian Center. All right, we have returned, and Lisa, you listen to the show, so you're familiar with Cecil.
I am, been dying to meet her.
We're not sure if it's a he or a him.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, we don't. Cecil won't give up any information about that. Wow. So Cecil, are you there?
Well, I'm here, Monty'man, and I've been very curious about something.
And what is that something, Cecil?
Well, with all of the technology and scientific achievements that we have made over the years, it shouldn't be too difficult at all for someone to pick up their phone when we're trying to give away a trivia prize. So what's the deal, Lisa? Come on, what's the deal, Lisa?
Cecil, I know. And the last time I was I was doing my hair. We have to live. We have our lives. But and I got to the point, and just when I got to the phone, Monty hung up. So... And then I've waited ever since. And does my phone ring, Cecil? No, it hasn't rang since.
Well, we tried and tried to reach you, and you just didn't want to talk to us.
No, Cecil, I would love to talk to you. But as I said, the phone hasn't rang since. So what is that, Cecil?
Well, I don't know, but I think we should give Lisa one more chance to win a prize while playing Take 12 Trivia. So here we go.
Uh-oh.
Take it away, Monty'man.
All right, it's time once again for Take 12 Trivia. This week, we're returning to useless trivia.
Yes.
Cecil loves you, Lisa. Okay, we have three trivia questions and a bonus. Here we go. Question number 1. What is commonly known as the dashboard in our automobiles was intended for what purpose? And here are your choices. A, to house the electronic devices in our cars. B, to place a place where ladies could put their hats while having or without having to place them on the floorboard. Or C, to protect passengers from debris flying in their faces. First one is to house the electronic devices. Second one, place to put ladies' hats. The third, to protect us.
I'm going to say the third one.
Okay. What do you think, Lisa?
I want to go with the hats for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? It sounds good.
Back in the day.
Well, Eve is actually correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Dashing horses kicking up mud, amongst other things, splashing the passengers riding behind them, led to the invention of the dashboard, a term which survives today. So very good, very good. Okay, Lisa, we'll give you another chance here to
redeem myself.
Redeem yourself. Okay. Trivia question number 2. The name of the Brooklyn Dodgers originated from A, baseball actually being a French form of dodgeball. B, after the baseball great Peter Dodge. Or C, Brooklynites' ability to dodge trolley cars.
I'm going to say the first one.
Baseball actually being a French form of dodgeball.
Yes.
Lisa?
I'm going to say what Eve said. I'm going to go with A.
Well, you're both incorrect. It's Brooklynites' ability to dodge trolley cars.
I get these right at home all the time. I don't know what the problem is.
Okay, question number 3. The term Dodger, well, I already did that. Okay, well, let me explain it to you. The term Dodger, from the Brooklyn Dodgers, known as the Los Angeles Dodgers now, was shortened from the trolley car Dodgers, which were the Brooklynites' nickname. Question number 3. The Declaration of Independence was originally written on what surface? A, pressed cotton, B, hemp, C, slate.
Pressed cotton.
Yeah.
Pressed cotton?
Yes.
Oh, you guys, I'm sorry. It was actually hemp.
Hemp.
Yeah.
Yep.
What in the world is that noise? That is wrong on so many levels.
That was Colin heard that last night. He goes, Dad, what is that? That was a moaning baby.
Oh.
Okay, you guys, here you go. Here's the bonus question. More common in the annals of history rather than the Bible, the thief on the cross who asked Jesus to remember him was named what? Here are your choices. Lucius, Barthus, or Dismas?
Dismiss.
Lisa, you are correct. It actually was Dismas.
Oh, no, I said that.
It's not Barthus. I know that.
Well, it's interesting because I thought dismiss of the word dismiss.
Yes,
and
you're
then I thought,
exactly.
Yes.
I wonder if that it is dismiss, and that's where we get the word dismiss.
You're exactly
Yeah.
correct. Some believe this is where we get the phrase dismissed.
Yes.
Used in courts today, the thief was not found not guilty. Rather, he was dismissed from receiving eternal damnation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, interesting stuff, huh?
Yes.
I knew it wasn't Barthus. I knew that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I just made Barthus up. I just, that'd be kind of, maybe our next dog will be named Barthus. I don't know. Who knows? And that does it for Take 12 Trivia for this week. And by the way, okay, Lisa, because you got the bonus question correct, we are going to give you a couple of prizes.
Oh.
Okay, and for being on the show this week. And what we're going to give you is Walking Through the Big Book. This is 34 one-hour workshops. This is on audio DVD.
Nice.
So you can put it in your DVD player or you can put it on your computer. And inside here is also, I think, 18 different recovery songs from recovery recording artists that you can play on any device.
Oh, thank
So
you.
that's for you. And then also, as a treat, we have a buy one entree, get one free from Denny's.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
You can have that because I can't.
Thank you so much, Monty.
You bet. So, hey, if you can't get them on the phone, just drag them in the studio. Yeah.
there you go.
Okay, let's see here. Let's hear from our two sponsors for this part of the show, and we'll come back with the topic. What does it mean to thoroughly follow our path?
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
As men and women who have recovered from utterly hopeless states of addiction ourselves, we know all too well what it's like to battle addiction daily. We are Origins Recovery Centers.
Here at Origins, we have taken that which we have learned along the way, excised anything unhelpful and unnecessary, infused it with the latest medical research and innovative therapeutic methods, and created what we know to be the absolute gold standard in substance abuse treatment. And Origins provides the most preeminent aftercare and relapse prevention program available in the United States. For a free confidential clinical assessment, call toll-free 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
All right, welcome back. And our special guest this week is Lisa. And, of course, Eve is here. And our topic is, what does it really mean to thoroughly follow our path? Now, in the original manuscripts, in Chapter 5 of How It Works, it read, never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our directions. And then it goes on to say, those who do not recover, and by the way, this was something that we have talked about in the past. Do we recover? Are we always in recovery? And what we have discovered is there's a third camp, as far as opinion goes on that, not just recovered or recovering all the time, but why can't they both coexist? And the fact is, we do recover, at least according to the literature. We recover from a hopeless state of mind and body, but we all know that we're all recovering from our sin nature, right? I mean, as believers, we're in a process of that every day. We have to die to ourselves daily. So they really do coexist. But here it's talking specifically about alcoholism. And it says those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program or this simple set of directions. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. And one of the things that I've heard from several people that I have a lot of respect for, that really know their stuff, is what are we talking about? What are they incapable of being honest with themselves about? And it's very specific. It's about being honest about being powerless. We can be really honest about all sorts of things, but it's really difficult for us to be honest with ourselves that we, left to our own devices, can't even muster up enough strength to brush our teeth. You know, that we live in a society that demands success, demands a progressive movement towards the prize and all that kind of thing. And so it's really hard. So those of us who are not willing are capable, for whatever reason, of being honest about this truth that, left to our own devices, we're in trouble. Probably you're going to have a difficult time following directions. Now, I bought, and I shared this the other night, I bought a swing set when we first got married, and it came with a set of instructions. And it was huge. I mean, this thing was this little tiny piece of paper folded up, and when you opened it up, and it was like paper thin, when you opened it up, it was thousands and thousands of words. If I had paid attention, I would have realized that the actual instructions in English were only about 2 inches of a paragraph, about the size of a paragraph, about 2 inches. The rest of it was different languages. But see, I wasn't paying attention. I just saw that. I saw the massive thing, and I said, you know what? I got this. Right? I got this. And what happened later that day was my son's birthday. A bunch of us were there, and we heard, partial screaming, partial laughing. And we turned around, and the swing set had collapsed. That was my fault. But here we go again, right, as we are. I'm like, what did you guys do? What's wrong with you guys? You broke the swing set. I knew it was me. So I was deflecting. I was blaming and doing the whole thing. All because I wasn't willing to follow the directions. So what does it mean to follow our path when we're talking about this process of recovery? What does it really mean to you guys? I mean, you kind of heard my example. Maybe even talk about what does it mean to follow the directions when it comes to your walk with the Lord? I mean, what is that? So who wants to give it a shot?
Well, I'll give it a shot. There's a reason why in the original manuscript Bill had written, "Never have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path." And so, though AA was a lot different back then. I mean, they were going out and they were meeting people at a point of desperation. They were in the gutter. They were in hospitals, detoxing. There was usually some sort of crisis, an acute crisis,
Right.
Where they were brought into the picture. And, they asked them, they told them their story. They gained their confidence a little bit. Then they, gave them the bad news. You're doomed. And then they shared that there was hope. And then they said, if you want what we have, are you going to be willing to go to any length to get that? So they would ask them that question, and it was either yes or no. And then it was like...
So nobody went, well, what does that mean?
No, because they just heard what that meant.
Right. Right.
So,
but I'm just saying that because people do that today all the time.
Yes.
Well, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're sharing their experience, strength, and hope. They've just told them that, we followed a few simple rules, and this is
right.
We are now recovered. And so if the people said yes, then they launched off into this.
That's my phone.
Wow, that is really something. I thought we were going to have an alien land right here in the studio. So they, these people would say yes, and then they would, like I said, launch them right away into working the steps. And a lot of times they were doing that within like a week's time or something,
right.
From what I understand from the archives and some of the historical writings. So sure, maybe these people ended up going back through the steps again, but what was beautiful about that is it was like what I call like letting air out of a tire that's about ready to explode. So either, and the book says that we're powerless over alcohol. So what makes us think that just by hearing another person's story, we're going to be able to put the plug in the jug? No, we've got to immediately start off on these steps. That's what they're saying, thoroughly followed our path. So, these people had just phenomenal success rates, 90 to 100% from, that first 100. So, that's what that whole first sentence is and how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. These steps are just phenomenal at clearing out the path that separates us from our higher power, from God. And it gives us a life that's better than we could ever even imagined. It does remove the obsession. Mm-hmm. God does that for us. So.
I read one of the definitions of thoroughly was leaving out nothing.
Yes.
And so that means you don't cherry pick what you like and leave the rest, to quote a phrase. Mm-hmm. You take it all. You do it. And what's amazing to me, because I've done this in other situations as well as in early recovery, I've objected. I've said, well, I really don't have time for this, or I don't know how that's going to fit my schedule, or, I already really know that. I mean, after all, I was a youth pastor, and, why do I need to turn my will and my life over to the care of God? I did that in 1971, and I was reminded, you don't know what you're talking about. Because how's that working for you? And it hadn't been working for me. Right. Because it wasn't that those things weren't valid. It was that I wasn't willing to follow anybody's path with my own little head. Mm-hmm. Lisa?
Yeah, the thoroughly, I'm sitting here and it is thoroughly, just being new in the recovery, what I struggle with, what always gets my attention, and I have to pray daily for a reprieve, is my ego. Mm-hmm. My ego is so, I think I'm shame-based. I'm nothing. But my ego is so bountiful,
I like that.
that it gets right in the way of my recovery, of being thorough. Well, I don't want to look at that. Well, there's no need to look at that.
And there's no need.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
Well, no, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
You've given your will and your life over to God. No, I'm gonna let my ego in and edge God out.
Right.
That's what I always think of.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I am with that. Is the daily struggle of the ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
To manage that, because it is thoroughly. You have to do it all, especially step 4. Step 4 is relentless. It's painful. It's everything.
What we have in many 12-step fellowships, you have a term called two-stepping, which I used to think that was doing step 1 and 2. It's not. It's doing step 1 and then going all the way to step 12. Okay, I'm powerless. My life's unmanageable. Now I'm going to help you.
Right. Right.
It's like, what? And I tried that. I'll just be of service, and everything will be fine. Everything else will take care of itself. And it took care of itself all right. I serviced myself right into a relapse.
Right.
Yeah, because I wasn't willing to follow directions. So, what is the most difficult? I'm going to ask you, Lisa, first. What is the most difficult for you to accept? Direction from someone else, or direction from what you believe the Spirit of God is telling you? Not an easy question to answer, is it?
No, it's not, because I know that deep in my heart, direction from the Spirit of God will only do good things, and that's where my heart wants to belong. And I would say probably direction from somebody else.
Eve, what about you?
That's easier.
No, what's more difficult?
Directions from somebody else. Yeah. When I sense the Lord's direction, it's usually there's no defense up against that. I'm usually much more willing.
Those are real interesting answers, because when I was asking myself that last night when I was putting together the template for the show, I come to the same conclusion, but it used to be just the opposite.
Oh.
It used to be I could shut down the Lord's, gentle voice, and sometimes even firm voice, and then justify that I was making mistakes because I listened to what you told me.
Oh, okay. I guess I can. Yes, I guess that's been similar for me in the past as well. Yes,
but things are different now.
They are different.
Step
3 changed all that.
How so?
Well, I either have or I have not turned my will and my life over to the care of God, and I have. It's God's business now. He's the director.
In fact, it's interesting that you say that. And I brought this up at the speaker meeting I was at. Again, in the original manuscripts of the AA Big Book, when talking about the ABCs, because I said I had to concede to my innermost self that this was the case, that I was alcoholic, that I could not manage my own life. And my unmanageability was not because I got a DUI. It was because I was spiritually handicapped. That no human power could relieve that alcoholism. And then in the original manuscript said that God can and will, period. Not if he were sought, he can and will, because it's not based on my seeking. It's based on his drawing me to him. And then it goes on to say most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show. This is where I would decide that your direction and God's direction, right? even though I knew that God could and would, even though, or can and will, even though I knew I was powerless, even though everything else, I still insisted on running my life on my own self-will.
Yeah.
And we know that the alcoholic and the addict are the person who's experiencing being controlled by something other than God. We are just a crazy example, a magnified example of self-will run riot. Just bizarre.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to, am I willing to follow directions? Now, it's interesting because when I do speak at places, I like to watch people's faces. You can tell the people, and not by their nodding in their heads, but just by their eyes. You can tell the people that have never heard this before. You can tell the people that don't want to hear it, and you can tell the people that have experienced it. And it was really nice because there was a lot of people that was very supportive of what I was saying, which is usually uncommon in my case. And so a lady came up to me afterwards and she said, you know what? She said, this is the first time anybody's ever told me that I needed to follow directions. And I thought, wow, I mean, that's almost unheard of to me.
Wow.
But the point is, even if she had been told, she wasn't hearing it. She didn't hear it at the very least. And now she heard it.
Well, was she speaking from a point that we hear so often that these are suggestions only?
Absolutely. And
okay.
Yes. And that is, see, here's the thing. This is a suggested program of recovery, not a program of suggestions. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference.
That and I totally agree with you. That word suggestion has really been polluted.
Yeah.
Over the years, and but I like what Sister Susan says, and she says they're suggestions. We suggest you do them if you want to live.
Yeah, what's that thing about we suggest you pull the ripcord when you jump out of the plane?
Right.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah, so that's what that word suggests. That's in the context that it's used.
Subtle command, from what I understand.
Yeah, and like good people that know their place and respect boundaries, we can't pull that cord for you. It's something that the other person has to do. And so there you go. Yeah. We do suggest. We hope you will. We hope you will follow our path.
Oh, yeah. And I just know that I believe that we can help raise the bottom for people. I do. I believe that God wants that for folks. But we seem to, take the rocky road and perhaps sometimes that is the way it's supposed to be. But I just know that out of my own experience, if I had followed directions, here's the thing. If you want what we have, do what we do. If you guys ever heard that somebody share, you may want to not want to do my program.
Yes.
Well, I'm like, then why are you telling me about it? Mm-hmm. What? Well, your program? Yeah, you're probably right. I probably don't want to do your program, but if there's something, if you've got something in your life going on and it's exciting and it's new and it's fresh and you're healing and you're recovering, why wouldn't I want to do that?
Right.
I'd like to back up a little bit just in case there's people listening that have not listened before. This is not my first rodeo. Okay, so I have relapsed so many times, and I was one of those that balked at following these suggestions. As a matter of fact, the first time I came into AA, I got sponsors that I knew would not ask me to do any work. And if they did, I fired them and got a different one. But mostly it was so I could say, my sponsor, I have a sponsor, like when I was sharing. Yes, I have a sponsor. So I knew that was important. But here's the thing, is I knew that I could get away with not working those steps. I knew I could slip under the radar with that because I was with a legion of others who were also not doing the steps in that 12-step group.
Yeah.
So it's rare to find people that have actually done the work. It's not easy to do.
No.
And the first time that I did do them was in 2003. And people, I'll tell you what, I was hardly working. I think I was working about 20 hours a week at the time. So I had a lot of time to work on my recovery. And it took me 6 months of reading, going through the big book almost every day, because my sponsor ended up moving in with me, because that was just circumstances of how that worked. And so we were going through the big book almost on a daily basis, and it took me way over a month, like maybe 2.5 months to write my 4-step in all the different things, the resentments, the institutions, fear, all that stuff that I had to write out. And then it took me another couple of months to do 6, 7, 8. Well, 6 and 7 was just the next day, and then 8, 9 took a little while too, because that had to be done and that had to be organized and taken care of. But that was a lot of work. And when I think back on that time, I remember getting really tired of writing and thinking, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? It was like, oh, I'd rather be doing just about anything else. I'd rather go to a meeting. I'd rather go to a meeting and socialize with my people rather than do that just exhaustive work. So the point is that this is something that is going to take effort. And, what it says, though, in the big book after step 9, that 9th step promise, if we are painstaking about this phase of our recovery, we are going to be amazed. And that is so true.
It is.
I've never heard anybody say that they're not amazed.
After
me that
either.
point.
That have actually done that.
Yes.
That have gone through that 9th step. And
yes.
It'll blow your mind.
Right.
Lisa, have you experienced that yet? Have you gone through the 9th step yet?
Not yet.
Yeah, I guarantee you, if you are thorough and painstaking about this phase of your recovery, and that's the amends part,
Right.
it will blow your mind. It'll blow your mind how people react. It'll blow your mind how you react.
Yeah.
And it'll blow your mind at the grace that you will experience. It just, when you think that the world is going to hell in a handbasket and there ain't nobody out there with any compassion, love, or they even give a rip, your faith is renewed.
Wow.
Mine was.
Do you know the film that is opaque that comes on new windows? That after they get put up, they'll peel that off, and so then it becomes clear. That's what I felt like happened to me after I completed my 9th step. Because the process was actually happening. While I was writing, when I turned the page on my 4-step, I had a spiritual experience when I turned the page, an awakening. And then after I got done with the 9th step, my life then, because then my sponsor told me, 10, 11, and 12, she kind of laid it out. We read through the rest of the book about those things. So I knew what was going to be my responsibility. It was clear cut. I was done with the biggest amount of work was behind me. And now I was equipped. I was like, I've got my tools in my tool belt. And I know that I just, if anything was bothering me, instead of pointing a finger at somebody, my very first reaction was to think, what was my part? That was it was like, who is this person? Who am I? I'm not the same person that I used to be. And so it was like everything, driving down the road, there was a level of contentment that I had never experienced in my life. I was so happy to be me. To be living in my own skin, the immense gratitude.
So when you said that you would think, what is my part?
Yeah,
that wasn't natural, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I never thought what was my part. It was always about somebody else.
You too, Lisa?
Exactly right. Never me.
So when you're in conflict with somebody, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Always.
Right.
It wasn't me.
Right. Well, and then there's the other side. There's the shamey part. And I want to talk about that from a little piece of this other book that says, well, there's something wrong with me. Well, and I think we misunderstand that part in the original 12-step literature when it says, if something disturbs us or something going on in us. We tend to beat ourselves up instead of just saying, okay, let's just take an honest evaluation and let's move on. We tend to say, well, there's something wrong with me, and I'm just a drunk. And
well, we could do a whole show or two, and possibly that's in the future on guilt and shame. And I'm hoping that maybe we do, because it's something I'm just fascinated with, and I see it's a big chunk of some of the reasons why people have trouble remaining sober even after they've done the steps. So maybe we can do that someday, and I'm looking forward to what you're going to read from that book.
Okay, so let's do that. There's a book that Eve loaned me called "Tired of Trying to Measure Up" by Jeff Van Vunderen. I hope I pronounced that right. Getting free from the demands, expectations, and intimidation of well-meaning people. These
people that aren't looking to harm us.
No. They mean well. They really do. Why can't you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps? You were raised better than that. Why can't you be like your brother? Blah, 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 blah. Right. And they're just doing what they know to do. And we're not going to change them. But the way we perceive ourselves, the way we see ourselves, there's a lot of stuff in this book that is really great. And I even though there is multiple biblical references in here, and this is talking about a lot of different aspects of even spiritual abuse, that kind of thing. You don't even have to be of the Christian faith to get some powerful stuff out of this book. I mean, there is stuff in here that you really need to get a hold of. Well, one of the things that I wanted to touch on real quick was in our attempt to share with people the importance of following directions, it can be very easy to shame them. It can be very easy to make that less than appealing to follow directions. If you don't do this, you are going to die, you stupid fool. And we've heard things like that, do the steps or die blankety blank, and, things like that. And though that may be cute and funny sometimes and that kind of thing, is it really? How helpful is it to shame somebody into obedience? I don't think it's very helpful. I don't think we need to be babying people either. I don't think we need to be patting them on the butt and saying, oh, it's okay, you had a relapse, it's all right. It's not all right. But there's a way to approach this stuff with the gentleness and the grace that really only God can give us, because our human nature is to want to control. There's something in here that really stood out to me, and this is in reference to people who have become Christians. It says, a person becomes a Christian when he gets his life from God. His Spirit is the only source of power that can give life. When we get life from the Spirit at the time of our salvation, that which is natural, the flesh, is no longer our source. And those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Obviously, this doesn't mean that we are no longer in the flesh. A look in the mirror would tell us that. And I read that to read this other piece to you. So we're getting our power comes from a different source now. It doesn't come from us. Did it ever? Really? Do I even take a breath? Whether I believe in Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, nothing. Do I even take a breath without God's power in my life? I don't think so. I think we are of the mistaken opinion that we do things, we make decisions, we make our own destiny, blah, 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 and I don't think so. I just don't. I think we can make poor decisions and go down different roads, but I think the basic elements of human life, like breathing, don't happen without God's hand on us. I didn't decide one day that I was going to breathe. Did you?
No, it's an automatic.
Right? And why? Because that's the way God designed us.
That's the way God designed us, yes. So as a Christian, we can't separate ourselves. But the Bible tells us that we have free will. So
Yes, and that's true too. And I
Yeah.
believe that coexists.
Okay.
With, I mean, I'm not saying that we're puppets.
Yes.
But even my free will is given to me, and the ability to make those choices is given to me by the grace
Well,
of God.
yeah, it all goes back, doesn't it? We
Yeah.
can always go back to...
Okay, having said that our source now, when we turn our will and our life over to the care of God, that our source of our good thinking, our decisions, and everything else comes from Him, because we know that nothing good lives in us; it's in our sinful nature. This is what it says about the kind of world we live in today. It says most modern approaches to understanding ourselves and making changes in our lives focuses on the central ingredient of effort. Effort. You need to put more effort into this.
You need to try harder.
You need to try harder. And it says whether our problem is doing something we wish we weren't doing, or wanting to completely surrender our life to God, follow the directions, right? Or struggling to believe God really loves us, the line is still the same. Try harder. Mm-hmm. So how am I supposed to try harder if the source of my power doesn't come from my trying harder? And I think within Christendom, we speak out of both sides of our mouths. And I don't think we're even aware of it sometimes.
Yes, that is so true. And I think that probably fear plays a great deal in driving people to be double-minded on that. Mm-hmm. I think that the idea of surrender makes people think that you're just giving up, and that scares them. I'm making an analogy to is like what I'm imagining as a parent, my child who might be using drugs,
right?
And on the one side, if I can separate my emotional self, my human self from that, I know that the key to that person being my child being set free is for them to surrender to
Mm-hmm.
God.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I might be the first one to say, you just got to try harder, because I'm so afraid.
Yeah.
Like surrender might look like giving up, but it might mean that they're not going to make it. I mean, I can just see how the whole idea of how we operate as children of God, it's so upside down from this world. It's so opposite. The weak will be strong. We can hang our hats on that. Those of us that have experienced that surrender and know that our utter powerlessness and our weakness, and then tapping into the power of God, we've experienced that and we know what that's like. Believing that for somebody that we are so full of fear over losing because of the disease, it might look a little bit different. And so it manifests that way. We do talk a different language at times just because we forget. We forget, or we can't separate that fear out. We can't quiet the voices.
Hey, Lisa, have you had anybody in your life just tell you, Lisa, just buck up and do better? Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How'd that make you feel?
It would shape me into going back into my alcoholic nature more because I wasn't good enough.
Because you felt like you couldn't do better, right?
I couldn't. I was doing the best I could, in my mind. So what I found myself doing was just becoming very recluse. I would just drink by myself. I would just shut everybody else out. Then I didn't have to hear it anymore.
Right.
Yes, I can agree with that. That's, I think, probably our human nature.
Didn't have to hear it, didn't have to deal with it. I knew what a loser I was. Didn't have to clarify that for me. So, if I just did that, then that was my safe place.
There's so many things that we can say to people that are shameful, are shaming, like, oh, that person just isn't ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
I used to hear that when I was counseling for some of my patients who would relapse, and we would have staffing that'd say, well, they just aren't ready yet. Now, that may be true to a certain extent. They haven't hit a place where they are willing to surrender.
Right.
But as the term, they're just not ready yet, denotes that the person is making a decision to defiantly not be ready to quit.
Yeah, they may not be ready, but to say that,
it makes it as if it's their choice.
Exactly.
And it's just not. So, yeah, we have a lot of language, even in recovery, that is shaming in a lot of ways, I think.
So, in expressing how important it is for everybody out there in recovery radio land who's wondering why they're starving to death and they haven't cracked the cookbook to make their food, which is what the speaker last Monday was talking about. I want to drive that home. If you're starving to death, then read the cookbook. But at the same time, when we're working with people and they're not following directions, we need to be sensitive to perhaps things that are unseen that is going on. And the only way I know to be that way is to follow some directions myself in working with people. And here's one of the directions that the Big Book gives us when working with people that perhaps aren't following directions.
Yes.
Here it is. This can be applied in anything, but in this particular case, it's perfect. This was our course. We realized that the people who wronged us, you mean I'm your sponsor and you're not going to do what I'm telling you to do? Is that about me? Sometimes we think so, But perhaps they were spiritually sick. Now we're getting ready to change our whole attitude towards the individual who's not measuring up. Though we did not like their symptoms, perhaps they're not following directions, and the way they disturbed us, because we want the best for people. They, like ourselves, now he's reeling us back in, reminding us that
we're no different.
We're no different. We're sick too. So here's the direction it gives. So if you're out there and you're working with somebody and they're just not getting it, and you've just about had it, you're going to fire that guy, and everything. And you may have to let go. You may have to move on and work with somebody else. But here's the thing. Here's some clear-cut direction. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, "You offended me." No. It says, we said to ourselves, "This is a sick man, and this is the power, and this is the important part. How can I be helpful to him?"
Yes,
or her?
Exactly.
Because it's not about us.
Because it's not about us.
Period.
And he's so wise here. God, save me from being angry, because that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And thy will be done. So how can I be helpful? And so I'm sitting there speaking in this meeting, thinking to myself, am I being helpful? And a healthy critique as I'm sharing, because I want God to be the one that's speaking. But I want to get across that it's important that you thoroughly follow our path if you want what we have. Now, if you don't want what we have, that's fine. It's a free country. But if you want what we have, you probably should thoroughly follow our path. So that's some words of suggestion there for you. However, for those of us who are frustrated with people that won't follow the path, maybe we need to ask God to help them, to ask God to help us be helpful. Mm-hmm. And that may look like different things for different people. And so, because I don't know about you, but I can get very angry and say that I'm angry at the illness. That's a cutesy little thing to say. Well, I'm just angry at the addict, not the person himself. Well, you know what? Truth be told, my flesh will get really angry at you You know, as if you did something. You woke up this morning and you were going to tick me off. I don't know anybody that planned that. Not in my life anyway. You know. So there we go. Is it important to follow the directions? Yeah. But I need people in my life that will show me and grant me cheerfully some of the patience that I need. How about you, Lucy? You need people in your life that are willing to go the long haul with you without shaming you, without putting you in your place.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, a lot of that is growth on my part because coming into this, I had to learn how to trust. You know, I didn't trust anybody. Yeah, I didn't want to put my feelings out there, you know, for somebody to step on them again. But yeah, it is important to have those people in your life that help you, that you get kudos or help you with direction. I know I have my tools, but they will do nothing for me if I do them alone.
Right.
You know, I need the spirit, and I need the people in the program.
So we need people to hold us to the fire, to remind us of our commitments, remind us that we said we'd go to any length, what that means, and everything. But boy, there's a way to communicate that that's effective, and there's a way you can just shoot yourself and the other person in the foot.
Exactly.
Right. Any closing thoughts, you guys, before we listen to our closing song?
Nope, I'm just glad that we talked about.
And I really am on the same page with you about the guilt thing. Yeah, we are going to address that and talk about that because that is so important. All right. Our closing song this week is by Michael Purrington and the Messengers. It is simply called By the Book.
Down the bottle, picked up the phone. The man on the line said, "You're not alone. We got people just like you. Want what we got, do what we do." Said, "Son, if you're a drunk, a liar, cheating, a crook, try doing it by the book." Made some meetings, didn't walk out. Listened up, shut my mouth. They had all hit bottom, end of the line. They all stayed dry one day at a time. They said, "Keep coming back," and that was all it took. Started doing it by the book. I do the steps in order. 1, 2, 3. Try to help somebody like they help me. Now I stay sober and life goes right. Say please in the morning and thanks at night. Another day not drinking, you let me off the hook. Doing it by the book.
All right, that's Michael Purrington and the Messengers, and you can get more of Michael's recovery music at quitdrinkin.com. quitdrinkin.com. That's quitdrinkin.com. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man, along with Eve and Lisa, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
Of course you have questions. Of course you have doubts. Just try our suggestions. We'll show you the way out. Surrender to faith. Open your mind. Trust in something. You'll be amazed at what you'll find if you are willing.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Your higher power